Hi there, GMC owners. Today in your 2013 GMC Sierra, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Pollak's in-bed wiring harness. You can see here that you've got a 7-way connector, and it's very similar to the one you've got at the back of the vehicle. It's got a spring-loaded door on it with a seal on the inside to protect it against moisture and corrosion, and we've got all the necessary signals coming out of our 7-way here that's also available at the back, because with this kit we're just kind of piggybacking onto our existing wiring and bringing that up here to give us a closer connection for our gooseneck or fifth wheel trailers. So this is going to give you all the same signals that the one at the back has. If you got a brake controller, you'll get the same outputs. Again, it's just a mimicking copy. I will say that this connector here from Pollak is probably my least favorite of the options for getting in-bed wiring in your truck. The hardware doesn't come included with it. You have to assemble the connector here on the top side. I would recommend Kurt's or Bargman's. I find those ones to be easier to install. The one here we have to assemble the connector at the back also makes the connector depth further than on the Bargman ones that we have, which are pre-made into a molded rubber piece. So if you wanted to position it further up on your truck somewhere, this one may or may not fit because it may hit the outer wall, whereas that Bargman, again, it's a little bit smaller, pre-made, so you could probably put it further up if that's what you wanted to do. And they also come with spacers, unlike this one, doesn't come with a spacer. And the spacer fits behind the connector here to bring it out some. So if you didn't have that clearance, you would get even more clearance. So it just maximizes the versatility of where you can place those connectors. The Pollak one does work well, though, as far as giving you your signals. And again, it's just a mimic of your one here at the rear. So if that's just what you're looking for, and if you like the style and look of this one, I do like that it has a chart on the back indicating what the outputs are. That's nice for at-home diagnostics. But other than the chart here, I really kind of prefer the other ones that we offer here at eTrailer. So now we've talked about it a little bit here, why don't you follow along with me and we'll show you how to get this installed in your truck. We'll begin our installation here at the back of the truck, where we want to determine where we're going to place our connector. Here's our in-bed connector here. So you can see it's pretty wide, and we're going to have to drill out about a 2-inch hole for this to fit in. 2-inch hole is what's recommended by the manufacturer, but honestly, I found that if you go with a 2 1/8 inch hole, it's going to make your installation significantly easier. You're not going to cut too much where you're going to see on the outside, but it's going to really make things a lot easier because the shape of these connectors here, you see how it's got this kind of flat portion here where it meets up with our connector. The distance from here to here, and you can see it kind of even like bows out just a little bit there, is right at about 2.0001 inches. Like it just barely fits through a 2-inch hole. You almost got to force it through a 2-inch hole. And what I found happens a lot of times is you end up catching a piece of this plastic on it, and then you break your connector because it just barely fits. So just go with a slightly bigger hole and you're going to be okay. I would not go any bigger than 2 1/4 though, because if you go any bigger than that, you will potentially see something on the side. So 2 1/8 is kind of the sweet spot. Now, as far as where we're going to put this connector, we need to have enough room between the interior wall here and the fender on the outside, because if we don't have enough room, when we drill through this hole, we're going to end up hitting that, and our connector's not going to fit, and we may end up damaging it with our tools. So this portion here, you can see how it kind of raises out towards us. It's going to give us a bigger gap here. We can see the depth here, so we can actually see straight down through the stake pocket in this area. And if you just kind of look at the depth, if you were to set your connector here, we know we got plenty of depth. So that's going to be a great spot. When looking down through this hole, we do see that there's reinforcements in here that goes down to about here, and you can kind of probably see the tack weld spots there where it is. So we're going to make sure we go down below that so we don't have to deal with that stake pocket reinforcement. Got our hole saw here, so we're just going to put it in the location where we want our connector. And then we're just going to drill this out. Right there, and we can come back. Check our connector in here, make sure everything's going to go good. That's going to work out very nicely there. And our other one, you can see we're going to completely cover up that hole. Even if we were to go to the far extreme edge of the hole that we cut, no edge is ever going to be visible. So that's going to work out really nice for us. We're going to grab a vacuum now, and we're going to suck up all these metal shavings and things that we've made, and because we're going to be putting a little bit of paint on here. Clear coat works well, or if you have a color that you can match it with, you could use that. But you want to get all those metal shavings out of there first. Now we're just going to put a little bit on here just to protect from corrosion. I'm just trying to mainly get it on the areas where we cut to protect it, trying to avoid getting it on the other areas. All right, so now we can drop our wiring down. I'm just gonna drop in one connector first, followed by the second. All right, and now we have to assemble our connector here on this side. So go ahead and grab your pieces so we can get these together. Here is your connector, and then this is kind of the locking piece that will hold it in place once we get them in there. So now we're just going to insert our pins into the back side here. We can see here our connector, and our ground is going to be our large hole there. So these are kind of your two visual cues for when inserting your pins into the back of your connector. So we can go ahead and start with ground, just because that one's different than the rest. You can see it's larger, and of all the pins we've got here, you can see that this one here has the largest weather packing on the back here. So we're just going to take our pin here. We need the pin to slide in and click. You see these square kind of notches on there? Those are going to click into place to hold it in there. There we go, and it clicked in, and you can see I can't pull it out now, and now we've got our pin. We can see it's inserted in there. So we're just going to move around our connector now and get all the remaining wires installed here. So we're just going to kind of go, we'll just go around in a circle here. So we're going to grab the red one next. That's going to go next to our white one there. All right, so we got the next one. Now we're just going to keep on working our way around. All right, and then our last slot there was the blue. So we're just going to twist it back around to blue here and insert the blue into our connector. All right, each one is clicked in. We're just taking a quick peek here at the other side just to make sure that we can see all the pins are all the way clicked in, and we can see each and every one of them, so that's a great sign. We'll now take the locking tab here and insert it into place. That just snaps in there like that, and that locks all of our pins in there. And again, the little tab's actually what locks them in there. The blue cover here is what ensures that the tab can't be released to pull a pin out. If you did put a pin in the wrong slot there, to remove them, if you stick a little needle down there, you can move that tab and pull that pin out. But with this blue thing in here, it covers up those access places to be able to remove the pin. So it's just kind of a protection lock there, so it can't be tampered with until you remove the blue locking piece there. All right, now the end of our connector here just plugs into the back. We're not going to put them all the way in just yet, though. We're going to grab some dielectric grease first to protect our freshly made connector here from corrosion, because the weather packing on the back side, those rubber pieces, those seal it up from the back. We want to seal it up here from the front as well, and we're going to use dielectric grease for that. We're going to be pretty generous with it. If you need some dielectric grease, you can get some here at eTrailer. There we go. Now we'll plug our two pieces together. Hear the click, and then we'll push in our lock tab there, the gray tab here on the back. Make sure our pieces can't separate. Everything's good there. So now we'll drop this on down. And now we'll mount up our connector. Now the connector mounts just using self-tapping screws. You do not get any provided in this kit. Just make sure your hardware is no bigger than 1/4 inch. So we're gonna line this up. And the first screw that we put in here isn't really as important as the remaining ones. I'm trying to just kind of see where the center of our hole is here. That's pretty well centered there. It doesn't matter as long as you don't see any gaps or anything. All right, and then we're just gonna set our screw in place here, and then we're gonna run it on in. We're using an 8mm socket for the screws that we're using. All right, so we got that one in, and this is the point now where you can see here, you can tilt it a little bit. So we're gonna try to just get it as level as we can, and then we'll run in our next screw. And that looks pretty good right there. I always like try to use body lines to match it up with. And that looks pretty darn good with our body lines and stuff there. So we'll run in our next one. Double check, make sure it didn't move on us. That still looks pretty good. And after you got the two in there, you should keep it in the position that you need it in. There is a tiny bit of play in there, so you could loosen those and make a fine tune and then retighten them, and then the remaining ones we're just gonna run right on in. So here we are now underneath the vehicle. This is our factory connector, and this is the wiring that we had dropped down here. We're just gonna route our wiring that we drop down over towards this connector. Let's see, sometimes you get lucky and you can route it above the frame and stuff. Looks like there's a nice hole there. It's too close to the leaf spring stack. I'm not too comfortable with that. This is looking like the best spot probably to pass through is right here. All right, so we'll just pull our wiring over. And now we're going to disconnect this connector. The ones that we've got here are just going to plug in line with it. So our factory connector here has a gray lock tab on it, just like our replacement one, or the new one that we're installing here. So let's push this gray lock tab back. You're probably going to need a screwdriver for it because dirt and stuff, especially, you can see this guy probably lives on a gravel road here. That just really cakes up inside of these connectors and it makes them difficult to release. It also dries them out, makes them very brittle, so it's not uncommon for little plastic tabs and stuff like that to break. So we're going to try to be careful here and get this disconnected. Kind of jiggling it up and down while pressing in on the lock tab to kind of free up some of the dirt and debris that's in there. And then we were able to get it to come off there. You can see, look at how tons of dirt up in there. All right, so we've got that disconnected. We're going to grab our dielectric grease once again. Get this one all filled up as well. All right, so now we'll take our new harness that we routed, take the female end here and plug it into the male end on our vehicle. And I'm actually gonna just rub my hand around it there, just so I can see there's so much dirt and debris built up on this. And sometimes that dirt and debris prevents you from getting the connector to plug in all the way. There we go, get some of that out of the way there. And then we'll line this up. Make sure it clicks all the way in. And again, it can be difficult because of dirt and debris and various things. All right, so we're gonna give it a pull. Hey, and when we pull it, it stayed. So that means we're clicked in. Push your lock tab in place. All right, now we're gonna grab the factory connector here that we disconnected from the 7-way at the back, and we're gonna plug it in to the other end of our new harness that we routed. And again, I'm gonna pull it, make sure it's fully connected in there. That all seemed good. I can't pull it apart. So now we're just gonna take this excess that we've got here, we're gonna bundle it all up under here, and we're gonna zip tie it, just cable ties and attach it to the factory wiring here. I'm gonna try to keep it probably close to this pocket right in here, because I do have the spare tire pulled down. It's not necessary to do this install. It's just that with the spare tire here, you wouldn't be able to see anything that's going on. So I'm gonna try to keep it in this area because you can see this is the marks here, kind of where the spare tire rides, kind of rides like that, and it curves back around here like that. So I mean, this is accessible, but when we go to put that tire back up, we wanna make sure it's gonna clear. So yeah, this is exactly where I'm gonna put it. All right. So now we're just going to plug in our tester here to verify that it's working properly. You can plug into your trailer at home if you're unsure. I recommend a tester over using your trailer unless you know your trailer is working properly, because if you have any faults or shorts on that and it causes something not to function properly, you might think it's your wiring when it's actually your trailer. All right, so we've got it plugged in here. We click it over to trailer battery charge. That's our auxiliary charge. We can see we've got our 12 volt on there. So I'm going to switch it over to the trailer brakes. If we have a factory brake controller, we will be able to activate that. If we don't have one, we won't. And then we're going to run through all of our lighting signals as well. So I'm going to go hop in the truck so I can activate all those. All right, so I'm in the truck now, and I'm going ahead and turned on my running lights. You should see those activated. We're going to go ahead and turn those off. And then you also want to verify you have your left turn signal, right turn signal, your brake signal. And then at this point, if you had a brake controller, you would want to activate it. All right, with all of our signals working properly, we're ready to button up our truck, double check any wiring that we might need to zip tie up, and we're ready to hit the road. And that completes our installation of Pollak's in-bed wiring harness on our 2013 GMC Sierra.